May 19, 1981, a little after 10 in the morning, an FBI surveillance team sits in an unmarked car on Industrial Road across from the employee entrance of the Stardust Resort and Casino, Las Vegas, Nevada. They're watching the door, not because of what they expect to find, but because 3 years of wiretap recordings in Kansas City have told them that something physical leaves this building on a schedule no one has ever documented. A man named Bobby Stella walks out carrying a brown paper bag. He doesn't rush. He crosses the lot, gets into his car, and drives south on the strip to a hardware store parking lot on Maryland Parkway. He parks. A second man is already waiting. Phil Ponto, a Stardust employee whose name has surfaced on Kansas City wiretaps in contexts that have nothing to do with casino management. Stella hands Ponto the bag. Ponto opens a rental car's trunk, places the bag inside, and drives away. The FBI follows the rental car north out of Sioux, the city, past the last subdivisions onto Interstate 15. At the second rest area outside Las Vegas, the car pulls over. The driver steps out, opens the trunk, and removes the brown paper bag. He doesn't count the money. He transfers the bundled cash, tens, twenties, hundreds, into special pockets sewn inside the lining of his suit coat. He buttons it, straightens his tie, and gets back behind the wheel. He drives to Los Angeles International Airport, parks in the short-term lot, and boards a commercial flight to Chicago O'Hare. He looks like a consultant returning from a convention. When he lands, he drives to a private residence in the western suburbs. The residence belongs to Joseph John Ayupa, boss of the Chicago outfit, the man who controls everything the Stardust produces that Nevada will never see. The courier's name is Joseph Tallarico. He's a Teamster official. He's made this trip before. What the FBI has just watched is the skim in transit, money removed. From the count rooms of 4 Las Vegas casinos before it was ever officially recorded, carried through American airports in a suit coat, and delivered to the head of an organization that doesn't appear on a single gaming license, a single regulatory filing, or a single page of corporate paperwork anywhere in the state of Nevada. Everyone who's seen the film knows what happened inside those casinos. They know Ace Rothstein and Nicky Santoro and Ginger McKenna, the genius, the enforcer, the wife who burned everything down. What they've never seen is the machine those people were inside. Not 3 individuals destroying each other, but a 4-family Midwestern consortium that built a shadow banking system through the largest labor union in America, financed the second biggest casino operation in Nevada with $250 million in pension loans, and extracted millions through rigged coin scales, phantom accounting slips, and an entirely unregistered change booth that appeared on no government record anywhere. The film gave you the characters, the operation underneath, how it was built, how it actually worked at the mechanical level, and why it took a pizzeria wiretap in Kansas City to bring it down. That's the part nobody filmed. The pipeline that made all of it possible started with a $2 per month pension contribution from a truck driver. In 1955, Jimmy Hoffa negotiated the first centralized pension contract for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Employers paid $2 per member per month into the Central States, Southeast and Southwest areas pension fund, raising $800,000 monthly from 177,000 members. Hoffa hadn't come to this leverage alone. He'd been introduced to the Chicago outfit through Paul "Red" Dorfman, head of the Chicago Waste Handlers Union. Congressional investigators in 1959 called Red Dorfman the link between the Teamsters and the Chicago underworld. The deal that built the empire was simple. Red delivered outfit support for Hoffa's rise through the Teamsters ranks, and in return, his stepson Alan got into the insurance business. Alan Dorfman was a World War II Marine veteran who'd earned a Silver Star at Iwo Jima, a decorated combat soldier, not a backroom fixer. He and his mother Rose founded Union Insurance Agency in 1949, received their first Teamsters contract in 1950, and Alan was a millionaire within 5 years. He became the pension fund's $60,000 a year consultant, a title that disguised near total control over its investments. He coordinated 7 committees, including the one responsible for all real estate and loan decisions. He traveled on a private Teamster jet. He decided which loan applications moved forward and which disappeared. When Hoffa went to federal prison in March of 1967, convicted of jury tampering, he secretly assigned fund control to Dorfman. A resolution passed 3 weeks later, making Dorfman a special consultant to the board. In the decade after Hoffa's imprisonment, the fund tripled in size. The first casino loan had come in 1958, $4 million to the Dunes. By the mid-70s, the fund had financed Caesar's Palace with $20.4 million, to J. Sarno, the Desert Inn with over $10 million, Circus Circus with $2.6 million, and dozens of other properties. Dorfman was, in practical terms, the largest single lender in the Nevada gaming industry, and he answered to Joey Ayupa. By 1976, the Central States Pension Fund held $249.4 million in casino loans, 56% of all outstanding loans in Clark County. The Teamsters weren't a lender to the Las Vegas casino industry. They were the Las Vegas casino industry. And the man who decided where that money went answered to Chicago. The landmark loan came in August of 1974, $62.75 million to a company called Argent Corporation, controlled by a 32-year-old San Diego businessman named Alan Glick. Glick was the perfect front man. Decorated Vietnam veteran, Bronze Star, 3 combat air medals, law degree, no criminal record, no casino experience. He'd contacted Frank Balistrieri, boss of the Milwaukee crime family, seeking Teamsters financing. Balistrieri brought in Kansas City's Nick Savella and Cleveland's faction to secure enough trustee votes. Chicago joined as the dominant partner. Subsequent loans brought Argent's total Teamster funding to approximately $146 million, making it the second largest casino operation in Nevada after Howard Hughes. The kickback structure was explicit. Angelo Leonardo, Cleveland's underboss, at the time the highest-ranking mafia member ever to become a government witness, testified that Teamsters, President Frank Fitzsimmons, and Cleveland labor leader William Presser were paid $600,000 for their votes approving the loan. Glick was forced to pay Kansas City $1.2 million, plus $75,000 each to Balistrieri and Savella. Roy Williams, who later became Teamsters president himself, admitted under oath to receiving $1,500 a month from Savella for 7 years, $117,000 total, for his pension fund vote. Williams told the court, "Nick Savella assisted me in my career, and I assisted him." The loan required cooperation among multiple families because any single trustee could veto. This gave each family leverage and a claim to skim proceeds. It also meant the entire structure depended on trust between organizations that had no contractual obligation to one another. The genius of the system was also, as it turned out, its fatal design flaw. But that wouldn't become visible for another decade. Glick owned the casinos. He didn't run them. Frank Lefty Rosenthal did. Installed as executive consultant to the chairman in October of 1974, a title that meant nothing. His actual job was everything: setting the odds, managing entertainment, overseeing operations across all 4 Argent properties: the Stardust, the Fremont, the Hacienda, and the Marina. The Nevada Gaming Commission knew exactly what was happening. On January 23, 1975, they determined Rosenthal was a key employee exercising significant influence and ordered him to apply for a gaming license. On January 22, 1976, they denied him unanimously. The hearing was chaired by Harry Reid, then Gaming Control Board Chairman, later United States Senate Majority Leader. The basis for denial: Rosenthal's 1963 North Carolina sports bribery conviction, testimony that he'd tried to bribe a player to throw the 1960 Oregon-Michigan football game, and admissions of corrupting Florida officials. Rosenthal simply changed his title: Food and Beverage Director, Entertainment Director, $65,000 a year. He continued running the casinos without a license for years. He wasn't placed in the Black Book until 1987, 12 years after the commission first identified his role. A detail that rarely appears in any account of this period. Former Gaming Control Board member Jeffrey Silver later disclosed that Rosenthal had agreed to become an informant for the board in exchange for limiting the investigation to Nevada activities only. Silver discovered out-of-state criminal evidence by accident from a former FBI agent. None of it had been included in the board's preliminary report. The regulatory apparatus that was supposed to prevent exactly this situation had 82 gaming agents monitoring over 200 casinos. New Jersey deployed 3 times that many for 12 properties in Atlantic City. Nevada lacked wiretapping powers and wasn't considered bona fide law enforcement by the FBI. Silver recalled the institutional reality. The federal government thought state regulators were crooks and scoundrels, and Nevada was treated as a pariah. The Black Book contained only 25 names and lacked enforcement mechanisms. Nick Savella simply entered Las Vegas wearing wigs and fake beards. State officials didn't discover skimming at the Stardust until May of 1976, 18 months after it began. The casino's books are balanced every night. The count room scales told a different story. Here's how the machine actually worked. Every night, coins from the Stardust slot machines were emptied into bags, placed in steel cages, and rolled under armed guard into the hard count room. The bags were placed on ultra-sensitive weighing scales, the standard method Nevada used to calculate slot revenue. An Argent corporation hired. Scale Mechanic had recalibrated those scales to register approximately 10% light. $1,000 in quarters weighed $900. The surplus, the unweighted 10%, was the skim's first harvest, but extracting it required a second mechanism. Locked coin cabinets were placed against casino walls where change girls exchanged bills for coin rolls throughout the day. The cabinets contained unweighed skim coins. The bills deposited by the change girls were never officially counted. They flowed directly into the outfit's pipeline. And then there was the detail that no documentary, no film, no mainstream account has ever rendered. An entirely unregistered change booth operated on the Stardust Casino floor, looking identical to every other booth, staffed by employees who understood exactly what it was. 100% of money passing through that booth went directly to the outfit. It was connected to no government reporting system. It appeared on no audit. It didn't exist on paper. Jay Vandermark, the Stardust slot department manager, designed the entire system and reportedly extracted $300,000 per week from Argent properties. He was later sent to Mazatlan, Mexico, where he was murdered, his head bashed in while sunbathing. That detail tends not to appear in the same accounts that describe the skimming as a victimless financial crime. The table game skim worked through phantom fill slips, the accounting forms that tracked cash and chip movements between the cage and the gaming tables. Certain Stardust employees always worked together. Fill slips were generated but never delivered to the appropriate games. Chip fills to tables didn't match the slips in the drop boxes, yet the cage remained in balance, meaning cash equal to the phantom fills had been removed, and nobody's count was off. Assistant casino manager Frederick Pandolfo, along with Louis Salerno and Larry Carpenter, skimmed close to $3 million through this method before their November 1986 conviction. At the Tropicana, the operation was more direct. Carl Thomas, who described himself at trial as an expert in skimming, placed his own trusted crew inside the count room. They took cash directly off the top before the daily revenue was recorded. Thomas testified he'd skimmed $80,000 during a 2-month period from Fremont and Hacienda alone. He was indicted for skimming over $280,000 from the Tropicana between June of 1978 and February of 1979. Coins from all 4 Argent properties were transported by armored car to the Stardust for centralized weighing, concentrating the vulnerability in one location and the opportunity in one count room. The money that emerged traveled the route the FBI witnessed in 1981. Stella to Ponto, to a courier in a rental car, the suit coat pockets LAX to O'Hare. In Chicago, cash was delivered to Angelo LaPietra, who kept Chicago's portion and passed the remainder to Anthony Chiavala Sr. for distribution to Kansas City and Milwaukee, and to Milton Rockman for Cleveland. According to Leonardo's sworn testimony, each participating family received between $40,000 and $100,000 per month from the Stardust skim alone. Leonardo personally received up to $10,000 a month as Cleveland underboss. William Presser, the Cleveland Teamster trustee, received $1,500 a month. Chicago took a 25% cut after arbitrating a dispute between Kansas City and Milwaukee over shares. The ruling came directly from IUPA. The Tropicana skim, which Kansas City ran independently through Carl Thomas and Joe Agosto, produced $40,000 to $80,000 a month, with a portion shared to Chicago as a show of respect. Total estimates vary by source and methodology. The federal indictment conservatively charged a provable $2 million in table game skimming. Nevada gaming authorities documented evidence of $7 million skimmed at the Stardust. The broadest estimates, drawing on Stephen Fisher's detailed account published in Casino Chip and Token News, suggest as much as $15 million per year across all Argent properties for 5 years, approximately $75 million total. The Mob Museum estimates $300 million across all mob-connected casinos over the full era. Whatever the true number, and the true number will never be known because the operation was specifically designed to leave no record, this was a machine that ran for over a decade, survived multiple ownership changes, weathered federal investigations, and balanced the books every single night. The question the operation raises isn't whether it was successful. The decade of undetected extraction answers that. The question is, what made it structurally different from everything else in organized crime? Was the true genius the mechanical invisibility of the count room, the unregistered change booth that appeared on no audit? Or was it the Teamsters pipeline? The realization that if you control the lending, you don't need to own the casino? I'd be curious what you think. Tell me in the comments. The Chicago outfit's Las Vegas model looked nothing like how any other organization approached casino money. New York's 5 families competed with each other, Individual bosses held individual stakes in individual casinos through intermediaries, a fragmented entrepreneurial approach where every deal was separate and every relationship was personal. Meyer Lansky's earlier model worked the same way. Individual investments, personal relationships, Swiss bank accounts. Chicago didn't invest in casinos. Chicago controlled the lending institution that financed them. Alan Dorfman controlled the pension fund. The pension fund financed the casinos. The outfit controlled Alan Dorfman. It was a vertical monopoly, the only one of its kind in organized crime history. Geography reinforced the advantage. By long-standing agreement with the five families, Chicago claimed all territory west of the city. Las Vegas was formally designated open territory by the Commission, meaning more than 24 mafia families had representatives there at various times. But Chicago's Teamsters monopoly made it the dominant force regardless of what the Commission designated. The organizational culture was different too. Tony Accardo, who cleared all highest-level decisions while Ayupa served as front boss, maintained power for over 50 years while spending only one night in jail. Paul Rico once said Accardo had more brains for breakfast than Capone had in a lifetime. The FBI insisted money filtered up to Accardo from the skim, but could never prove it. This was a leadership model built on invisibility, the opposite of New York, where John Gotti held press conferences on the courthouse steps. The structural contrast reduces to numbers. New York's five families each maintained between 100 and 250 made members, competing across the same industries in the same city. Chicago operated as a unified single family with satellite alliances in Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Cleveland. Each satellite controlled specific Teamsters trustees. The Argent loan required all four families to pressure their contacts to vote in unison. No other criminal organization in America replicated this institutional pipeline-based model. And no other criminal organization was as vulnerable to the failure of cooperation, because the same structure that required trust across four families meant any single defection could expose every participant. If you've made it this far into how the outfit actually built and ran this operation, a subscribe would mean a lot. The man Chicago sent to protect the whole thing nearly destroyed it single-handedly. Anthony John Spilotro arrived in Las Vegas in 1971, sent by Ayupa to replace Marshal Caifano as the outfit's man on the ground. 5 feet 6 inches tall, 160 pounds, blue eyes. He'd been arrested 13 times by age 21. He became a made member around 1963 after the M&M murders, the torture killing of burglars Billy McCarthy and James Maraglia, during which McCarthy's head was placed in a vise until his eye popped out of the socket. By the time of his death, the FBI suspected his involvement in 22 to 25 murders. His mandate was straightforward: protect the casino skim, keep Rosenthal operational, enforce discipline. He reported directly to Joey, the Clown Lombardo in Chicago. He initially operated under the alias Tony Stewart from a gift shop at Circus, which he later sold for $700,000, 10 times his investment. In 1976, he opened the Gold Rush Limited Jewelry Store at 228 West Sahara Avenue with his brother John and Herbert "Fat Herbie" Blitzstein. The store served as his headquarters, a base for fencing stolen goods and an illegal bookmaking operation. FBI agent Bill Romer said most of the top thieves in the country fenced their jewelry and furs at Gold Rush. Spilotro also maintained a home at 4526 Balfour Drive in a quiet Las Vegas subdivision. His neighbors knew him as a jeweler. The FBI, which maintained near-constant surveillance, knew differently. They'd cataloged over 200 visits from known organized crime figures in a single year. The mandate was straightforward. What Spilotro did with it wasn't. Bored with oversight work, he formed the Hole in the Wall Gang, named for their signature technique of drilling through exterior walls and ceilings to bypass alarm systems on doors and windows. Key members included Frank Collada, his childhood friend from the old neighborhood who ran day-to-day operations. Also Joe Blasco, a corrupt former Metro Police detective fired in 1978, Larry Newman, Wayne Matecki, Leo Guardino, Ernie Davino. Collada later admitted involvement in over 300 crimes, including 4 murders. The gang targeted high-end homes, jewelry stores, and fur boutiques across the Southwest. The fundamental contradiction defined everything that followed. Street crime generated profit. Spilotro didn't have to share with Chicago. He told Collada he'd received permission for the burglary crew. According to Collada's later testimony, that wasn't strictly true. He ran unauthorized loan sharking, fenced jewelry through the gold rush, operated illegal bookmaking, and ordered the unsanctioned murder of Sherwin Jerry Leisner on October 10, 1979, when he learned Leisner planned to testify before a grand jury. In December of 1979, Spilotro was blacklisted from entering any Nevada casino, making oversight of the very casinos he was sent. To protect, nearly impossible. The Hole in the Wall Gang ended on July 4, 1981. The crew attempted to burglarize Bertha's Gifts and Home Furnishings at 896 East Sahara Avenue, while Independence Day fireworks provided noise cover. FBI informant Sal Romano, embedded inside the gang, had tipped off authorities. 6 members were arrested. The bust made national headlines, precisely the kind of attention the outfit's leadership dreaded. 5 of Spilotro's underlings eventually became government witnesses. His affair with Gary McGee, Rosenthal's wife, violated a cardinal rule. The FBI leaked news of the relationship to newspapers nationwide, ensuring the bosses in Chicago couldn't look away. Former gaming board member Silver's assessment was precise. Those people had free rein to do whatever they wanted, as long as it didn't create too much notoriety. Spilotro created nothing but notoriety. What the outfit did about it wouldn't become clear for 21 years. June 14, 1986. Tony and Michael Spilotro leave Michael's Oak Park townhouse at 1102 South Maple Avenue in Michael's 1986 Lincoln Continental. Michael has been told he's being made, formally inducted into the outfit. Before leaving, according to testimony at the 2007 Family Secrets trial, Michael told his daughter Michelle he loved her at least 10 times. Both brothers removed their valuables and personal identification before getting in the car. The viewer already knows what's waiting. Michael didn't. They were driven to a modest house near O'Hare Airport in Bensonville, Illinois, 17W101 Bryn Mawr Avenue. Approximately 10 outfit killers waited in the basement. Nicholas Calabrese testified at trial about what happened next. He dove at Michael's legs, grabbed him, held him, and Louis Eboli cut his throat. Tony, realizing what was happening, asked one question: "Can I say a prayer?" There was no reply. Forensic pathologist Dr. John Pless determined both brothers died from multiple blunt trauma injuries to the head, neck, and chest, from punches and kicks, not baseball bats. Their lungs filled with blood. They were stripped to their underwear, stacked one atop the other, and buried 5 feet deep in a cornfield near Enos, Indiana, approximately 60 miles southeast of Chicago. The film shows bats in a cornfield, both brothers buried alive. The 2007 trial, unavailable when Scorsese filmed in 1994, proved none of that was true. The bodies were already dead. The weapons were fists and shoes. The location was a basement, not a field. The cornfield was just the grave. Farmer Michael Kins noticed freshly turned earth on June 22nd. Biologist Dick Hudson from Indiana Fish and Wildlife started digging. About 3 feet down, he later recalled, his shovel hit midsection. He thought to himself, "This is a person." The investigation that brought the whole operation down had started almost by accident. In the spring of 1978, FBI agents in Kansas City installed electronic surveillance at the Villa Capri Pizzeria, targeting local mob activity. Las Vegas was the last thing on their mind. But when they sat down that night, as retired FBI agent William Ousley later recalled, they talked about Las Vegas. The critical recordings accumulated over months. On November 13, 1978, a wiretap captured Nick Savella and Carl Tuffy DeLuna in a lawyer's office using the codename Tutu for Joey Aiuppa, the first electronic evidence connecting Chicago's boss to the Las Vegas conspiracy. The Marlowe House meeting of November 26, 1978, produced a 112-page transcript when FBI bugs captured Savella, his brother Carl, DeLuna, Carl Thomas, and Joe Agosto discussing skimming mechanics for 6 hours. DeLuna's handwritten notes seized during a 50-agent, 83 warrant raid on Las Vegas in June of 1978 included code names and skim distribution amounts. Frank Collada finalized his cooperation agreement in July of 1982 after the FBI played him a wiretap of Spilotro discussing cleaning dirty laundry, which Collada interpreted as a hit order against him. When he turned, retired Las Vegas Metro detective David Groover assessed, everything crumbled. On September 30, 1983, a federal grand jury in Kansas City indicted 15 defendants from Chicago, Kansas City, Milwaukee, and Cleveland, 75 overt acts alleged across 8 counts. The case was called United States versus Cerrone et al., but everyone called it Strawman, the FBI's name for the frontman scheme at the heart of the conspiracy. The 4-month trial began September of 1985 before Judge Joseph E. Stevens, Jr. in Kansas City. Government witnesses included Alan Glick, Angelo Leonardo, Roy Williams, and Carl Thomas. The prosecution deployed over 30 hours of FBI wiretap recordings. The defense argued the tapes were ambiguous, the code names unproven, the witnesses unreliable, cooperators trading testimony for freedom. The jury didn't agree. January 21, 1986, the jury convicted all 5 trial defendants: Aiuppa, 28 years, Cerrone, 28 years, Rockman, 24 years, La Pietra, 16 years, Lombardo, 10 years. Balistrieri had pleaded guilty on December 31st. DeLuna and Carl Savella pleaded guilty during the trial. Chicago FBI Chief Edward Hegarty called it the most significant prosecution of organized crime figures in the history of the United States. Earlier efforts had failed for structural reasons the operation was designed to exploit. The nominee system left no paper trail connecting bosses to casinos. The skim bypassed all recording systems. Nevada regulators lacked wiretap authority and FBI cooperation. The multifamily distribution chain meant no single informant could expose the entire operation. It took the convergence of Kansas City wiretaps, a turned Cleveland boss, a cooperating frontman, and a flipped Teamsters president to assemble a prosecutable case. The consortium that required 4 families to cooperate in order to function also required all 4 to remain silent in order to survive. The moment one spoke, The architecture that had protected them became the architecture that convicted them. That's the consortium trap, the structural paradox at the heart of every multi-party criminal enterprise. The same cooperation that makes the operation possible guarantees that its exposure, when it comes, will be total. If understanding how the outfit actually ran Las Vegas, not the movie version, but the count room scales, the unregistered change booth, the suit coat pockets on a commercial flight to O'Hare, is the kind of thing you came here for, tells me to keep going. Alan Dorfman never testified. On January 20th, 1983, 3 days before his sentencing on a bribery conviction that carried up to 55 years, he finished a bank transaction in Lincolnwood, Illinois, with his longtime associate Irwin Weiner. Walking across the parking lot of the Purple Hyatt Hotel, 2 men approached. One yelled, "This is a stick-up." The other drew a .22 caliber pistol with a silencer and shot Dorfman multiple times in the head. Weiner wasn't touched. Chicago Crime Commission Director Patrick Healy stated it plainly. The outfit killed Dorfman for the simple reason of the names he could give law enforcement. The murder remains officially unsolved. Nick Savella died of lung cancer on March 12, 1983. Joe Agosto, who'd turned state's evidence, died of an apparent heart attack in federal custody the same year. Rosenthal survived a car bombing on October 4, 1982. A bomb wired to the ignition of his Cadillac Eldorado outside Tony Roma's restaurant on East Sahara Avenue and left Las Vegas approximately 6 months later. He moved to California, then Florida, ran a sports bar called Crocs in Boca Raton, then a sports betting website from Miami Beach. He died of a heart attack on October 13, 2008, at 79. He was posthumously revealed to have been an FBI informant, codename Achilles. His ex-wife, Jerry McGee, was found heavily drugged in the lobby of the Beverly Sunset Hotel on November 6, 1982. She died 3 days later, aged 46. The Los Angeles coroner ruled accidental overdose, Valium, cocaine, and alcohol. She, too, was posthumously revealed as an FBI informant. The film didn't show either revelation because neither was public when Scorsese made it. Tony Accardo was never charged for Las Vegas operations. He died on May 22, 1992, at his edad, 86 years old. He'd never spent more than 1 night in jail, despite an arrest record dating to 1922. The Stardust was demolished in 2007. They brought the sign down first, the famous electric starburst that had marked the north end of the Strip since 1958. The building came down in sections over months, each implosion drawing crowds of tourists who photographed the dust clouds without knowing what had happened in the rooms behind them. The site sat empty for years before Genting Group, a Malaysian conglomerate, built Resorts World Las Vegas on the same ground, a $4.3 billion corporate mega-resort financed by institutional investors and regulated by a gaming control board that now deploys electronic monitoring systems the 1976 version of itself couldn't have imagined. Somewhere beneath the new foundation, the count room floor where coins were weighed 10% light still exists, buried under concrete, carrying no remnant of what it produced. The Gold Rush jewelry store at 228 West Sahara is gone. The site is now occupied by Allure Las Vegas condominiums. The Bensonville basement house at 17 West 101 Bryn Mawr was demolished in 2022. The Teamsters Central States Pension Fund, the pipeline that built the empire, is overseen by Morgan Stanley. The truck drivers whose $2 a month financed the whole operation were never made whole. And at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois, two brothers lie in a family plot who drove to a basement in Bensonville, thinking one of them was about to be promoted.